This journey begins with us traveling towards the sunset. It was so beautiful, my camera doesn't even have the pixel capacity to show you how beautiful it was. So trust me when I say it was a fairy-like combination of pink and orange. There is, of course, a scientific explanation to why we see the red sunset and the red sunrise and the blue sky as blue and red. And the answer is Rayleigh scattering. As of recent, I'm trying to make the perfect list of the items I always bring with me, which are, in my opinion, necessary. So we have a spoon, for the case that you want to purchase a pudding and you're not limited by the fact that there is no spoon. Earplugs, a book, always a thin woolen top. The effects of wool, oh my god, I cannot stress enough how great wool is. And mind you, this is thin wool, very trendy wool. And now I have a top which I think is measured as 120 grams per square meter. Doesn't smell, doesn't weigh anything. Oh my god, it's great. And speaking of items, when I flickered through a couple of catalogs recently, I saw this ball being for sale on an aircraft. So the sticky part is the shiny part, and you put this ball at the bottom of your bag to be able to pick up all the crumbles and dust. And this perfume, if I am to trust the description, has feelings because it is optimistic. So it's not a spray, it's not a roll-on, these are capsules. So I'm thinking I don't even want to bring the lid or the package, I just will put a couple of capsules in my evening bag. Perfect. Perhaps even more perfect, this ticket, which means that I don't have to queue for it when I land, was for taking the train from the Vienna airport to Vienna city in 15 minutes, and it was for sale on the aircraft. How perfect. Locals also say that is the most reliable train to the city. Third place of best purchases on an aircraft goes to food. Of course you want to have a meal when you're really hungry, like I was going from Helsinki to Krakow. This I got for free, well, besides the fact that I'm paying for the ticket. So chocolate and water was included on one flight and oven-baked crisps on another. And bonus, my neighbor gave me his, so I had twice the packages. I very much appreciate that you can charge your phone on aircrafts these days. It's not always that the charging station works, but when it does, it saves a lot of time. And this is something that a steward showed me. This is an arrangement to put your iPad inside, so you don't have to hold it on and don't be worried about turbulence. Our journey continues, and the sunset has proceeded, and I'm thinking about something that hasn't really crossed my mind before, and that is because what happened to me on my most previous flight hasn't happened before, and that is exchanging numbers with your aircraft seat neighbor. The reason to why we exchanged numbers was not really because of the great conversation we had, because that I had before, but it turned out that we were basically neighbors, so it was just a matter of time before we would meet in our city. I'm guessing that exchanging numbers with your seat neighbor is not that common. Well, actually, I don't know how often people befriend each other on Facebook, because I haven't had Facebook for years. Then I changed aircrafts. I was lucky to be seated next to a person who works at an airport. Of course, I asked questions. My first question was, how come passengers are requested to take out laptops from their bags to have them scanned separately? And now I have the answer. That is, laptops typically contain a lot of different components. They are easier to scan if they are outside a bag full of many different things. So usually phones are not scanned separately, and that is for the reason that they don't have nearly as many components, and scanning them basically looks like a big chunk of battery. Of course, it also depends on the scanning equipment. So take, for example, Gothenburg Airport. There you are requested to take out the liquids, the laptop, everything. You're not requested to do so at all the terminals at Arlanda, for example. So Terminal 5 is the most modern one, so you will not be requested to take out your laptop and liquids, but you will be requested to do so at the other terminals. We were also discussing why most aircrafts are being pulled backwards with a particular vehicle, which is called a tug, TUG, when actually the aircrafts could be backing themselves. And the reason for that is, of course, that if it would be using the same thrusting power it uses to take off, that thrusting power would affect the building they're leaving greatly. But not all airports require those tugs. Some are built in such a way that the aircraft just can turn, I think it's 90 degrees. So it's also a question of how the airport is designed. And in this case, it was a very clever solution. I keep finding interesting things like exhibitions and statues at the different airports that I visit. Now at Arlanda Airport in Stockholm, I found an award-winning sofa with a particular signpost saying, please be more careful than usual when being seated on this one. So I apologize a bit for the footage because the material they used to make the bags on the sofa is a bit stripy, checkered, so it doesn't look very good on camera. So it is supposed to look like that conveyor belt where you put in your bags, and this is designed from 2010. And the cushions on the sofa, they look exactly like bags. I really like this design. I'm not certain if I would want to have it installed at my home, but of course at the airport, it's perfect. Another installation, much more temporary, yet much appreciated. I'm wishing you a continued nice flight.